When people think about social media, they often assume that everyone wants attention. They assume that if a person is talented, intelligent, attractive, or successful, they naturally want to share every detail of their lives online. But psychology tells us something very different. Some of the most emotionally intelligent people in the world intentionally stay invisible. And today, we're going to talk about why. One of the biggest misconceptions about empaths is that they are weak, overly emotional, or incapable of handling social pressure. In reality, many empaths possess an unusually sophisticated awareness of human behavior. They constantly notice emotional signals that most people completely miss. This heightened awareness changes the way they experience social media. The average person scrolls through a feed and sees photos, videos, opinions, and updates. An empath sees emotional states. They notice insecurity hidden behind confidence. They notice loneliness disguised as popularity. They notice validation-seeking behavior hidden behind motivational quotes. They notice fear hidden beneath perfection. Because of this, social media often feels very different to them than it does to everyone else. While others are entertained, the empath is analyzing. While others are consuming content, the empath is absorbing emotions. And that emotional absorption comes at a cost. Psychologists refer to this as emotional contagion, the tendency to absorb and mirror the emotional states of others. For highly empathic individuals, this process can happen automatically. Imagine walking through a crowded room where hundreds of people are speaking at the same time. Now imagine that every voice is emotionally loaded. One person is angry. Another is jealous. Another is desperate for approval. Another is experiencing heartbreak. Another is projecting confidence while secretly struggling. For an empath, social media can feel exactly like that. Their nervous system is processing far more information than most people realize. As a result, many empaths instinctively reduce their online presence. Not because they are antisocial, not because they have nothing to share, but because they understand the psychological cost of constant exposure. Another reason empaths avoid excessive visibility is that they tend to value authenticity more than attention. Think about the structure of most social platforms. The system rewards engagement. Engagement often rewards emotional reactions, and emotional reactions frequently reward exaggeration. The louder the message, the more attention it receives. The more dramatic the story, the more people respond. The more controversial the opinion, the more visibility it gains. Empaths often recognize this pattern very quickly. They understand that attention and authenticity are not always the same thing. Many decide they would rather protect their identity than participate in a system that encourages performance over truth. This doesn't mean empaths are morally superior. It simply means their motivation is often different. They are less interested in being noticed, and more interested in being genuine. There is another fascinating psychological factor at work. Empaths frequently understand something that many people learn much later in life. Visibility creates vulnerability. The more information people have about you, the more opportunities they have to misunderstand you, judge you, criticize you, or project their own beliefs onto you. Highly empathic individuals are often extremely aware of interpersonal dynamics. They know how quickly admiration can become envy. They know how quickly support can become criticism. They know how quickly curiosity can become intrusion. Because of this awareness, many empaths intentionally maintain boundaries. Boundaries are not walls. Boundaries are filters. They allow a person to decide who receives access to their thoughts, emotions, and experiences. Healthy psychology depends on healthy boundaries, and empaths often recognize this necessity earlier than most people. Another reason empaths remain private is that they derive self-worth internally, rather than externally. Many people unconsciously use social media as a measurement tool. They measure popularity. They measure status. They measure approval. They measure acceptance. But empaths often discover that external validation is unstable. One day people praise you. The next day, they ignore you. If your self-esteem depends on those reactions, your emotional state becomes controlled by other people. Empaths tend to seek something more reliable. They seek internal alignment. They ask questions like, am I acting according to my values? Am I being honest? Am I treating people well? Am I growing as a person? Those questions create a foundation that doesn't depend on public applause. Perhaps the most important reason empaths don't show themselves on social media is that they understand the difference between connection and visibility. Visibility means people see you. Connection means people understand you. These are not the same thing. A person can have millions of followers and still feel profoundly alone. A person can have a small circle of trusted relationships and feel deeply connected. Empaths are often searching for understanding, not attention. For depth, not popularity. For meaning, not metrics. And because of that, they frequently invest more energy into real-world relationships than digital recognition. Their silence is not insecurity. Their privacy is not weakness. Their absence is not failure. Often, it is a conscious psychological decision. A decision to protect their emotional energy. A decision to maintain authenticity. A decision to prioritize genuine connection over public visibility. And in a world increasingly obsessed with being seen, that choice can be remarkably powerful. One of the most fascinating traits of highly empathic people is that they often value observation far more than exposure. While many individuals feel a natural desire to share their thoughts, achievements, and daily experiences with a wide audience, empaths are frequently drawn in the opposite direction. Their attention is focused less on being noticed and more on understanding the people around and them. This difference in focus creates a unique relationship with social interaction, especially in an age where visibility is often treated as a measure of importance. Empaths are naturally curious about human behavior. They pay close attention to facial expressions, tone of voice, body language, and subtle emotional shifts that most people overlook. When they enter a room, they are often gathering information without realizing it. They notice who seems uncomfortable, who is seeking approval, who is hiding frustration, and who genuinely feels at ease. This constant observation gives them a deeper understanding of people and relationships. Because so much of their energy is directed outward toward understanding others, they often feel little need to place themselves at the center of attention. For many empaths, there is also a sense that excessive self-exposure can interfere with genuine connection. They understand that when people become too focused on managing how they are perceived, authenticity can suffer. Instead of carefully crafting an image for others to consume, empaths often prefer to engage in real conversations and meaningful interactions. They are more interested in discovering what motivates people than in convincing others of their own value. Another reason empaths lean toward observation is that it provides a sense of emotional safety. By remaining slightly in the background, they can assess situations before becoming fully involved. This allows them to identify healthy relationships, recognize manipulation, and understand group dynamics without immediately exposing their own vulnerabilities. Observation becomes a way of gathering emotional intelligence and protecting their well-being at the same time. This does not mean empaths lack confidence or have nothing worthwhile to share. In fact, many possess deep wisdom, creativity, and insight. The difference is that they do not always feel compelled to broadcast these qualities. They often believe that understanding people is more valuable than impressing them. While others may seek recognition through visibility, empaths frequently find fulfillment through awareness. Their strength comes not from being the loudest voice in the room, but from noticing what everyone else misses. In a world that rewards constant exposure, their ability to quietly observe, understand, and connect represents a rare and powerful form of emotional intelligence. Empaths often possess a deep awareness of something that many people never consciously recognize. Emotional energy is a limited resource. Just as the body can become exhausted after physical activity, the mind and nervous system can become depleted after prolonged emotional stimulation. For empathic individuals, this reality is especially important because they tend to absorb, process, and respond to emotional information more intensely than the average person. What others may view as harmless scrolling through social media can feel like an overwhelming flood of emotional input to an empath. Every day, social media exposes people to hundreds or even thousands of emotional messages. Within a matter of minutes, a person can encounter joy, anger, fear, excitement, sadness, outrage, loneliness, and celebration. For most people, these emotions pass by without leaving a significant impact. For empaths, however, each emotional signal can register more deeply. They are not simply viewing content, they are often feeling the emotional atmosphere behind it. An empath might come across a post from someone experiencing heartbreak and feel genuine sadness. Moments later, they may see a heated argument and absorb the tension associated with it. Then they encounter news about a tragedy, followed by a video celebrating a major achievement. Their nervous system is constantly shifting between emotional states. Over time, this continuous exposure can become mentally and emotionally exhausting. Psychologists often describe this process as emotional overload. The brain is designed to process emotional information, but it also requires periods of recovery. Social media rarely provides that recovery. The content never stops. There is always another story, another opinion, another conflict, another crisis, and another emotional experience waiting just a swipe away. For empathic individuals, this endless stream can create a feeling of carrying emotions that do not even belong to them. As a result, many empaths become highly protective of their attention. They understand that where attention goes, emotional energy follows. They begin to limit screen time, reduce unnecessary engagement, or avoid certain platforms altogether. This is not because they are disconnected from the world. In many cases, it is because they care too deeply about it. Empaths recognize that emotional energy must be invested wisely. If it is constantly spent reacting to strangers, online drama, and endless stimulation, there may be little left for personal growth, creativity, family, friendships, and meaningful relationships. By managing their exposure, they preserve their ability to remain present, compassionate, and emotionally balanced. They understand a powerful psychological truth. Protecting your energy is not selfish, it is necessary. The healthier their emotional state remains, the more effectively they can support themselves and the people who truly matter in their lives. For many empaths, authenticity is far more important than attention. While modern social media often encourages people to seek likes, followers, comments, and public recognition, empaths are usually driven by a different motivation. They are less concerned with how many people notice them, and more concerned with whether they are being genuine. This difference may seem small on the surface, but it has a powerful influence on how they communicate, build relationships, and present themselves to the world. Empaths tend to have a strong internal awareness of their emotions and values. Because they spend so much time understanding feelings, both their own and those of others, they often develop a deep respect for honesty. They can usually sense when something feels forced, exaggerated, or insincere. As a result, they may feel uncomfortable participating in behaviors that appear designed solely to gain approval or attract attention. They would rather be real and misunderstood than popular for a version of themselves that does not feel authentic. Social media can create pressure to perform. People often feel encouraged to present only their best moments, their biggest achievements, or the most exciting parts of their lives. Over time, this can create a gap between who a person truly is and the image they project online. Empaths are often highly sensitive to this disconnect. They recognize that constantly maintaining an idealized image can be emotionally exhausting and psychologically unhealthy. Instead of creating a carefully crafted persona, many prefer to remain private or share only what genuinely reflects their experiences and beliefs. Another reason authenticity matters so much to empaths is that they value meaningful connection. They understand that real relationships are built on honesty, vulnerability, and trust. Attention may bring visibility, but it does not necessarily create understanding. A person can receive thousands of likes and still feel unseen. Empaths often recognize this distinction. They are not interested in collecting admiration from strangers if it comes at the cost of hiding who they truly are. Because of this mindset, empaths often resist the temptation to seek validation from external sources. They understand that approval can be unpredictable and temporary. One day people may praise you, and the next day they may criticize you. If self-worth depends on those reactions, emotional stability becomes difficult to maintain. Empaths frequently learn that true confidence comes from living in alignment with personal values rather than chasing constant reassurance from others. This does not mean empaths never enjoy appreciation or encouragement. Like everyone else, they want to feel valued and understood. The difference is that they do not want validation to become the foundation of their identity. They would rather be accepted for who they genuinely are than celebrated for a performance. In a culture that often rewards visibility above all else, this commitment to authenticity becomes one of their greatest strengths. It allows them to maintain integrity, protect their emotional well-being, and build deeper, more meaningful connections with the people who truly matter. For many empaths, privacy is not about secrecy. It is about emotional safety. While some people feel comfortable sharing large portions of their lives with the public, empaths often take a more cautious approach. They understand that personal experiences carry emotional weight, and they recognize that not every thought, feeling, or life event needs to be exposed to others. By protecting certain parts of their lives, they create a sense of inner stability that allows them to remain emotionally balanced and mentally clear. Empaths tend to be highly sensitive to the reactions of other people. They notice subtle changes in tone, attitude, and behavior that many individuals overlook. Because of this heightened awareness, they also understand that sharing personal information can invite a wide range of responses. Some people may be supportive, while others may be judgmental, critical, or dismissive. Even well-meaning comments can sometimes affect an empath more deeply than expected. Over time, many empaths learn that maintaining healthy boundaries around their personal lives helps protect them from unnecessary emotional stress. Privacy gives empaths space to process their experiences on their own terms. When something significant happens in their lives, they often prefer to reflect on it internally before discussing it with others. They value the opportunity to understand their emotions without outside opinions influencing their perspective. This private period of reflection helps them gain clarity, heal, and make decisions based on their own values rather than external pressure. For an empath, emotional processing is often a deeply personal journey that cannot be rushed or performed for an audience. There is also a psychological benefit to keeping certain experiences private. Not every emotion needs validation from others in order to be real or meaningful. Empaths frequently understand that some of life's most important moments lose their significance when they become focused on public reactions. A personal achievement, a difficult lesson, a relationship challenge, or a moment of growth can sometimes feel more powerful when it is experienced fully rather than immediately shared. Privacy allows these experiences to remain genuine and emotionally rich. Another reason privacy creates emotional safety is that it reduces the likelihood of emotional overload. Every time personal information is shared publicly, it invites responses, questions, opinions, and interpretations. An empath may find themselves carrying not only their own emotions, but also the emotions of everyone reacting to their story. This can quickly become overwhelming. By choosing carefully what they share, they limit unnecessary emotional input and preserve their mental energy. Privacy also strengthens personal boundaries. Healthy boundaries help individuals distinguish between what belongs to them and what belongs to others. Empaths, who naturally absorb emotional information from their surroundings, often need these boundaries more than most people. Protecting personal experiences becomes a way of maintaining control over their emotional environment. It allows them to decide who has access to their thoughts, feelings, and vulnerabilities. Ultimately, privacy provides empaths with something incredibly valuable: peace. It creates a safe space where they can think, feel, grow, and heal without constant outside influence. Their choice to remain private is not a sign of fear, insecurity, or isolation. It is often a deliberate act of self-care. By protecting what matters most to them, empaths preserve their emotional balance and ensure that their inner world remains a place of strength rather than exhaustion. One of the most intriguing psychological traits of empaths is their ability to detect hidden motives in human behavior. While most people focus primarily on what is being said, Empaths are often paying attention to why it is being said. They naturally look beneath the surface of conversations, actions, and social interactions. This tendency becomes especially noticeable in online environments, where status, validation, comparison, and subtle forms of influence are constantly at work. As a result, many empaths develop a unique awareness of the emotional dynamics that drive social media behavior. Social media is often presented as a place for connection, self-expression, and communication. While those elements certainly exist, there are also underlying psychological forces influencing how people interact. Individuals may compete for attention, seek approval, display achievements, or shape a particular image of themselves. An empath often notices these patterns almost immediately. They may sense when a post is less about sharing an experience and more about gaining validation. They may recognize when confidence is genuine and when it is being used to hide insecurity. Because they are highly attuned to emotional cues, they frequently detect motivations that are invisible to others. This sensitivity does not mean empaths assume the worst about people. In fact, many are naturally compassionate and understanding. However, their awareness allows them to recognize when behavior is being driven by fear, loneliness, jealousy, or the desire for status. They understand that people often communicate emotions indirectly. A boastful post may be covering insecurity. Constant self-promotion may reflect a need for reassurance. Public criticism may be rooted in personal frustration. Empaths are often able to see beyond the behavior and identify the emotional need underneath it. Another reason empaths become cautious online is their awareness of comparison culture. Social media can create an environment where people constantly measure themselves against others. Success, appearance, relationships, and lifestyle are often presented in highly selective ways. Empaths frequently recognize that these comparisons are based on incomplete information. They understand that most people share highlights rather than reality. Because of this insight, they may feel disconnected from the endless competition for attention and status that appears across many platforms. Empaths are also particularly sensitive to social manipulation. They often notice when fear, guilt, outrage, or emotional pressure is being used to influence behavior. Whether it comes from individuals, online communities, or content creators, they can often sense when emotions are being deliberately triggered to gain engagement or control attention. This awareness can make social media feel mentally exhausting because they are constantly filtering not only information, but also the intentions behind that information. Over time, many empaths choose to engage more selectively with online spaces. They learn that protecting their emotional well-being requires understanding the difference between genuine connection and psychological manipulation. Rather than becoming caught up in status games or endless comparisons, they focus on interactions that feel authentic and meaningful. Ultimately, the empath's ability to detect hidden motives is both a gift and a challenge. It allows them to see beyond appearances and understand deeper emotional truths, but it also makes them more aware of the subtle dynamics that shape online behavior. In a digital world where perception often matters more than reality, empaths are often among the few people paying attention to what lies beneath the surface. Their sensitivity helps them navigate social environments with greater awareness, wisdom, and emotional intelligence. For many empaths, real connection holds far greater value than digital visibility. In a world where social media often measures success through followers, views, likes, and public recognition, empaths tend to focus on something much deeper. They are not usually interested in how many people know their name. They are more interested in how many people truly understand them. This difference in priorities shapes the way they interact with others and explains why many empaths remain relatively private despite living in an increasingly public culture. Empaths naturally crave depth in their relationships. They are often less satisfied by casual interactions and more fulfilled by conversations that involve honesty, vulnerability, and genuine understanding. While social media can create the appearance of connection, empaths frequently recognize that visibility and connection are not the same thing. A person can have thousands of followers and still feel emotionally isolated. At the same time, someone with only a few close relationships may feel deeply supported, understood, and valued. Empaths tend to focus on the quality of relationships rather than the quantity of attention they receive. Because they are highly sensitive to emotions, empaths often seek interactions that feel authentic. They want to know what people truly think, what they genuinely feel, and what matters most to them. Surface-level exchanges rarely provide the emotional depth they are looking for. This is why many empaths prefer meaningful conversations with trusted individuals over broadcasting personal updates to large audiences. They often find greater fulfillment in a heartfelt discussion with one person than in receiving approval from hundreds of strangers online. Another reason real connection matters so much to empaths is that they understand the limitations of digital communication. Text, photos, and short videos can communicate information, but they cannot always capture the full complexity of human emotion. Empaths often rely on subtle cues, such as body language, facial expressions, tone of voice, and energy to understand others. These elements are often reduced or lost entirely in online interactions. As a result, many empaths feel that face-to-face communication or deeper personal conversations provide a richer and more accurate understanding of people. Empaths are also less likely to view relationships as a source of status. In online culture, connections can sometimes become numbers to display rather than bonds to nurture. Empaths tend to resist this mindset because they see relationships as emotional experiences rather than social assets. They are often willing to invest significant time and energy into a small circle of people they genuinely care about. For them, trust, loyalty, and emotional safety are far more valuable than popularity. This focus on meaningful connection often influences how empaths spend their time. Instead of constantly seeking public recognition, they may dedicate their energy to strengthening friendships, supporting loved ones, helping others through difficult moments, or building relationships based on mutual understanding. They derive satisfaction from creating genuine emotional bonds rather than accumulating attention. While society may celebrate visibility, empaths often celebrate connection. Ultimately, many empaths understand a truth that is easy to forget in the digital age. Being seen is not the same as being known. Public recognition can bring attention, but it cannot guarantee understanding, trust, or emotional closeness. Real connection requires presence, empathy, and authenticity. It grows through shared experiences, honest conversations, and mutual respect. For empaths, these qualities will always be more meaningful than online popularity. They recognize that a few genuine relationships can provide more fulfillment than endless visibility, and that true connection remains one of the most valuable experiences a person can have.